So you found the skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Dapper Reacts number 46 with Bible Explored with Graham Pettis. That's who we're going to be taking a look at today. But of course, I'm here with Vishanti. Vishanti, how you doing?
Well, teetering on the edge.
Well, that's not ideal.
It's not ideal, no.
Okay. Well, sorry to hear that.
Well, I mean, hey, you asked.
No, I mean, it's fair. I understand why you might be there. It's been a pretty rough year so far, and we're not even that far into it. So, hey, that reminds me. If you want to send Vishanti some happy brain chemicals, there's a wish list down in the description. I'm sure that every time she gets a little package as a gift, that your brain releases happy chemicals.
Yeah. So in addition to the happy chemicals, there are practical things. Oh, reminds me, now that you're mentioning the wish list, I would like to thank several people who sent me items off my wish list. Some of them were items that are practical, like skincare, so that was nice. It's nice to do a little bit of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And another item was some organization stuff for my closet, which I desperately needed. And that's been helping me improve my mood because I found out that when I have a very clean space and environment, it improves my mood significantly.
Nice.
So that definitely helped. And also one of the books that I've been wanting for a very long time. I'm actually going to go grab it real quick so I get the little bookmark name right.
Well, I'm going to let everyone know, Graham Pettis is a young Earth creationist, but he doesn't mostly focus on young Earth creationism. From what I can tell, most of his stuff focuses on more like generically Protestant evangelical apologetics, I guess, is the right word there. Yeah. So, but I did pick some young Earth creationist stuff. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
So apparently the person who sent me this book, The Bible, the Talmud, and the New Testament by Slovacic, they did not include their name on the gift receipt. So thank you, Anonymous, for that. And thank you to all of the people that have sent me things so far. It has definitely helped because I am now living on a very tight budget.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very nice and very humbling to see boxes on my porch and open them up and see some stuff that I needed. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Well, we also got Ben Thick Tunicate B2022, who's been a member for 9 months, is at the amnio level, said, drink with a tetrapod, a Dapper, a Godzilla, a Ghidorah, a Mothra, a proper sessile tunicate, and then a whole mess of disgusting pelagic tunicates. So I'll have a sip of this, but this is not an alcoholic beverage. I've decided not to drink any alcohol today. In part because I don't want to, and also in part because it was too cold to walk to the store earlier. But then Ben Thick Tunicate B2022 just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you. They went to Ian Houston, DeBoop, Robert Adsit, Michael Morales, and Quiet Fern. Welcome. All right, well, let's just jump into this. Let's respond to Graham Pettis with this this whole section. What do you say?
Okay.
Hey guys, welcome back. All right, we're going to talk about the Cambrian explosion. I haven't really talked much about this before.
It's the Cambrian explosion.
Mm-hmm. So how long do you think we're going to go before he says something that's blatantly not true about the Cambrian explosion?
Under 1 minute.
Okay, I mean, wow, that's very generous of you.
Alluded to it in the past, but all I want to do is I like presenting just both sides of the evidence.
Okay, hold on. I need a poll now. Okay, we're going to start a poll. Will Graham present both sides of the evidence? And I'll put in parentheses, without straw manning. Because, I mean, of course.
Oh, now you're adding without straw manning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's going to do something and he's going to say he's going to say it's him presenting it. But, like, is it? Yeah.
Okay.
Rosina Keller has been a member for 4 months and is at the Tetrapod level, says, "We are the first animal to evolve. Trilobites." Yes. The first animal to ever evolve was, in fact, that's not true, guys. Don't believe that. That's a lie. Jeez. Although I've heard creationists say it. What's the first animal to evolve? The trilobite. Oh, you mean the thing that doesn't even appear until like 12 million years into the Cambrian? Okay, cool.
Well, hey, at least the trilobites are back.
Yeah, well, yeah, we did. Yeah, thanks to Valdevia.
Yeah, we brought them back. Pretty great.
Jake Nelson for $10 says, "Been there, Vishanti. That's why I did it. You and Dapper get me through boring weekend shifts, and I get paid well. So, well, thank you very much, Jake Nelson. I also have a wish list in case anyone wants to make extra happy brain chemicals in my brain. And also, you know, some of it's there that's practical, you know. Not much, though. It's almost all just, like, RPG books and other accessories for RPG stuff.
Propane and propane accessories.
Maybe I should put propane in there. You know? Can you even ship
Yeah,
propane to
propane
someone's
heater?
door? I mean, I could just get one.
I don't think so, but
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
It seems like something that shouldn't happen. Like, that would be like a super hazardous thing to just ship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Taught in school is just indoctrination of evolution, but they
yes,
don't really
indoctrination.
have a phrase or something to talk about when it comes to the Cambrian explosion. There's really no backup for this.
The Cambrian explosion.
What does that mean? They don't really have a phrase or backup for when they talk about the Cambrian explosion. What is that? I don't even know what that means. DM pour out one vegan nog for my homie's wing, who's been a member for 19 months and is at the amniote level, says, "Turtles protesting the lack of turtle choice." Okay, yeah, fair. But then sends a Godzilla, Mothra, and a King Ghidorah. Thank you very much. I'll take a sip of this.
Oh, hey, Dapper.
Yes?
Guess what? The Lunar New Year is going to usher in the Year of the Dragon.
Oh.
Which means this is going to be the year of Tractor!
Wow.
Terminating all the presents.
When is Lunar New Year this year?
It's coming up within the next, I think, 4 weeks.
Okay. Cool.
That's a generous estimate because I can't remember what moon phase we're in right now. I didn't check it out for looking it up. So
if you were a werewolf, you'd know. I'll bet Ken Ham always knows what the moon phase is. Just saying.
So this talks about the sudden appearance of animals in the fossil record.
By the way, animals do not suddenly appear in the Cambrian. There are trace fossils of animals going back, twice as far from us as the Cambrian is. And there are plenty of animal fossils from, the Ediacaran. I've heard it every single way you can possibly think of, and no one can tell me which one's the right one. But, yeah. So, just right now, we already know that he's not going to be presenting the Cambrian in anything close to a honest way.
They appear to be fully formed.
What would a half-formed animal be like? What would it look
get
like?
Get those wings in.
Yeah, I sent some wings in chat. Asked a frog disarmament for you. Oh. For $4.99 says, February 9th is when the year of the dinosaur starts, according to Kent Hovind and Godzilla. Yeah, goodness, the year of the dragon. Obviously, it's just a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
And there's no transitional form, so...
Oh, man, if only things like Namacalathus and other such, and Sprigina and things like that didn't exist. Or, the transitional forms within the Cambrian, all those Lobopodians that are transitional between the very most basal sort of stem panarthropods and actual panarthropods, which today include tardigrades, actual arthropods, and onychophorans, or the velvet worms, which are some of the most adorable animals to be invertebrates on land ever. Onychophorans, yeah.
Yep.
They're pretty sweet. I like them. If I had to have a pet invertebrate, onychophoran would be high up on my list of kinds of invertebrate pets to get. Because they're so cute. Oh my goodness, why is my phone
Damn it, Dan McClellan's going up live against us. How dare?
Oh, well, that's why no one's here.
Damn.
Ah, what a jerk. And I also just...
Doesn't he know that you're supposed to be the only thing on YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube's supposed to shut down the entire rest of the site right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rude.
Tell Kip Davis to yell at him.
Right.
Evolutionists, they would say that, over time we've evolved. Well, that's fine. If that's the case, where are all the transitional forms? Shouldn't...
Oh, man, is it time already? I think it's time already. Shanti, you better start yodeling.
Oh.
Yeah, it's happening.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
Here we go. Oh, you want me to do it right now? Oh, and Kip's already on Arn Ross' channel. Everybody sucks today.
You're gonna miss the entire thing. We're not gonna get no yodels at this rate.
What? Sorry, I'm not prepared to yodel.
At least we got a little bit of yodeling.
I've been drinking coffee, and there's all this like non-dairy creamer in it. I'm not prepared.
Oh my goodness. Well, technically it counted, but yeah. Where are the transitional fossils? I don't know. Just like all over museums is the answer to that one. You could just look. I don't know.
I know why I missed it because I'm not watching the stream on YouTube. So I didn't see the slideshow.
Okay. Well, it's over now.
Oh, fine. Gosh.
To see those minor variations within the change amongst animals, and we don't. And this, I'm going to kind of go through here, explain this article that the Cambrian explosion.
I hate this shirt, by the way. That shirt is ridiculous.
It really is, and it's actually his own merch, right? See where it says like at Graham Pettis. Like that's a shirt he designed. This was his choice.
Look, once again, the challenge to young Earth creationists: use analogies that involve living things and not inanimate objects.
No, that's hard. They don't want to.
That shirt didn't evolve from anything. The shirt's not alive. You ridiculous person.
Yeah, that's correct. Although,
Nonsense.
You know what? If he made an asbestos shirt, then technically it would be made from rock. We should get him an asbestos shirt.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, let's not do that. As much as I'm like, this guy is kind of an idiot, I'm not going to wish an asbestos shirt on him. Although he would be immune to fire damage.
Is the trade-off worth it?
I mean, sometimes it might be, right? Like, if someone was like, okay, you have to go through this blazing inferno, you can choose to or not have the asbestos bodysuit. I'd be like, I'll take the asbestos bodysuit, please. Because that'll kill me a whole lot more slowly than the blazing inferno will. So, it's all about risk management. It's like one time someone was like, do you eat poison? I'm like, yeah, man, all the time. I drink alcohol, I eat nutmeg, chocolate, all sorts of poisonous stuff. Just, in low doses.
Well, Rosina Keller says asbestos. It's right in the name.
Yeah, it is the best. Obviously.
Everything appears to be fully formed, and I would argue that, yeah, they appear fully formed because that's the way God created them.
I've never ever once had a creationist tell me what a half-formed organism would even look like. Right? Like, is an Amalakaris a half-formed arthropod? I mean, it has like the segmentation. It has a little bit of tagmatization, kind of incipient. It has sort of an exoskeleton. It doesn't have jointed limbs, but it has appendages. I don't know. Also, JMC.
Read Mark Rose's chat.
Where is it? Mark.
Sorry, it was a comment. He says, might need asbestos pants since they're so often on fire.
Oh, nice. JMCA does list for 4,000 cops. I'm just going to go with cops because I don't know. It says we need a montage of pre-Cambrian fossils. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Or I could just stick a whole bunch of pre-Cambrian fossils onto the whole slideshow.
Oh, those are Colombian pesos, by the way.
Colombian pesos.
But cops is funnier.
Yeah, we're gonna stick with cops, right? I mean, it's not like I have a history of being super accurate. I'm still calling Australian dollars dollary-doos because the fact that that's not what
Well,
they're
that's what they
actually
are.
called- Yeah, I mean, the fact that's not their official name is a crime against humanity. Maybe South Africa can report them to the International Court next,
Oh my!
once they get done with their Israel case.
and suing America.
Yeah, I kind of hope they win that, even if I am
Allegedly.
an American.
So let's jump into this. It'll make more
Okay.
sense. But again, I'm not trying to. I know it sounds wrong, but I'm not trying to just present one type of evidence. The issue is like.
Well, you've already lied about the other side, so I don't believe you, buddy. Like, and I mean, I'm not even saying necessarily he's lied in the sense of he's intentionally deceived people. He's given obviously incorrect takes about the other side, quote unquote, by which I just mean science. So it's like, are you going to actually do an honest job trying to present the side of science against your ideas? And the answer is obviously no.
I mean, no, that would require him understanding the other side, which he obviously does not.
Exactly.
I mentioned is in school we're taught on one side, so I want to just show that other side, and then you make the decision for yourself whether you believe in evolution or if you say, hey, maybe there's an intelligent designer involved.
Fun fact, those are not mutually contradictory statements. Yep. Turns out you can believe in common ancestry, natural selection, sexual selection, genetic drift, niche construction, all that great stuff, right? You can believe in all of that, and then also believe that the universe had an intelligent creator. Yep. Yeah, it's one of my pet peeves, right? Is the degree to which they make false dichotomies all over the place. It's like, if you don't make a false dichotomy, creationists just don't know what to do with themselves. They just kind of fall apart. And like, why? Why can't you have a little bit more nuance? Is it because all the nuance is unwelcome?
Yes, it's unwelcome nuance.
Okay. That's what I figured.
But of course, I got to throw some scriptures in here. And I think this is pretty relevant.
Actually, Dapper's Vagination Station in All Points West is saying mixed fabric design merch shirt. It's probably 100% cotton.
I mean, I don't know, but yeah, there's a fair chance. A lot of the merch stores that have just like, you can design your own t-shirt, it's 100% cotton. I mean, I guess it could be a polyester blend or something. I don't know.
I don't know. It doesn't look like it to me, but what do I know?
I mean, I'm also not trusting his... Okay, so this video was uploaded in, like... You could download it and watch it in 4K, but here's the thing. It's all just shot with the same crappy webcam that he's using right now. So, like, he uploaded it with 4K resolution, but all that is it just means that you're using up more pixels to show the same screen resolution, so you just get big blocks on pixel, which is like,
this is just a slightly higher tech version of Roger who films his own TV screen or computer screen. This is just a slightly improved version. I'm like, my man, you have a laptop and a display monitor. Why can't you just edit the slides in?
Yep, or even better, like, just pipe it through a screen capture thing where you can capture a window in one place and your camera in another place, right? Like, I have OBS.
Yeah.
If I wanted to put on a webcam and then also have slides, I could have them both without filming a monitor. Aster Frog Disarmament Root for $4.99 says, "What? You can believe in evolution and a creator deity? Damn, maybe I should do that more than the everyday I always do." Yeah. No, see, you're actually an evil atheist who just wants to sin because your libido says so. That's the only other option. It's
evolutionist.
Yeah. Although I will say, at least
my god, Dapper, that just reminded me.
Oh.
So, the Rose Parade on New Year's Day in Pasadena. Before the parade starts, there are people walking up and down the street along a parade route, and most of them are either like workers for the parade, people trying to get in position, like officials for safety and stuff. But the other, like, very large percentage are street preachers who walk around with their, megaphones and these giant, like, repent and believe in Jesus signs, and you're going to go to hell if you don't repent and all that stuff. There was a group of Hare Krishnas, which I would like to give a shout out to because now I own a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, which I've never read, so thanks for that. but this one sign that literally did say evolution, and
Oh God.
if my fingers weren't frozen solid, I would have taken a photo of it. I was laughing so hard.
Wow.
It literally unironically said evolution. I was like, okay.
I just use that as like
And yes, Cadence Linker, Pasadena's in California.
wow, that's... Ooh, all right, well.
Unironically.
How to make yourself not be taken seriously by anyone. Just type it, or write down evolution.
So hard.
Jeez.
Evolution.
All right.
Some years ago, that a creator just would be completely shafted and don't want to talk about it anymore. So I'm trying to bring that back. So this is what it says. It's interesting. It says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lusts and saying, where is the promise of
Did he just copy these slides from Kent Hovind? Like he just retyped them using his like format in a slightly different font?
Yeah, he at least retyped them. But like that is Kent's thing where like he just will underline and like highlight with different text color, different thing. I mean,
yellow. It's literally blue background, white text, yellow highlights, and underlines.
Clearly, this guy got his format from Kent Hovind, right? However, this guy has the advantage of not currently being a convicted spouse abuser, not, as far as I know, being an admitted child abuser, and not currently having a body count, which already puts him like 3 notches above Kent Hovind in my standing. You know.
Yeah, not fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very hard for someone to be better than Kent Hovind. Like,
true. The bar's in hell.
Are you an abusive piece of shit? No. All right. Well, then suddenly you're better than Kent Hovind. Good job. That's all it takes. So basically, like, of the people I've responded to, who's lower than Kent Hovind? Maybe Jordan from Spirit Science?
Spirit Science.
Well, I mean, the thing he admitted to doing is something I don't even think I can say on YouTube. But, like...
Yeah, it
rhymes...
Total scum.
It rhymes with grape, but there isn't, like, a G on it. So...
And tape.
It does rhyme with tape, too. Yeah.
People are going to be ignorant of Jesus' second coming, for since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation.
It's almost like maybe this was written after the Gospels were written, where Jesus said that he would be coming back within a single generation. And then, you know, the author of 2 Peter's like, well, probably come up with something for that. I don't know. Maybe it's like that.
So people are going to be ignorant of the creation. And then here it is, the last one. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God, that heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water.
Which, by the way, that's hearkening back to the whole flat earth cosmology, which is weird because, generally speaking, the New Testament was written too late for them to be actually taking that as a literal cosmology. Because, you know, everyone knew the earth was a sphere, but, well, everyone with any halfway decent education knew the earth was a sphere, which some of the New Testament authors had, right? Because while some of them have kind of iffy grasps on Greek, some of them were actually pretty good. Like the author of Luke and the Acts of the Apostles, pretty decent Greek. So, yeah.
Where the world that then was being overflowed with water perished. So people are going to be ignorant of the flood. And I'm going to show you here in just a sec. Actually, we're going to skip that.
Oh, Alex Markle does say Kent probably did the same to his partners too. Spirit Science doesn't have a confirmed body count. So here's the thing. No one that I know of has even accused Kent of that, including, as far as I know, Cindy, with whom I've spoken privately several times, and she said things to me that are not public, and so I imagine if that had happened, that's probably something she would have mentioned. I'm not necessarily going to ask, but unless someone comes forward and actually says that that's a thing that happened, I'm not going to say that it did. I'm sure he's pressured some of his wives into things. So, I mean, that's certainly in an iffy situation, but, like, I'm not going to accuse him of something like that just because he's a piece of crap overall. Because, you know, that's not honest of me, right? I can't just accuse him
Ernie
of things
Matthews
no evidence.
In the chat says, greetings, Vishanti and Dapper. I don't get to hang around. I shall return. Thanks for your content.
Oh, hey, well, thank you. And thanks for stopping in.
At the end, I have a pretty cool slide here. The Cambrian explosion explained by the flood.
The Cambrian explosion.
I love that he's like, I'm going to give both sides, and the way I'm going to do that is by going to a creationist website to read about the Cambrian explosion.
Yep.
By the way, will Grant present both sides of the evidence without straw manning? No, 94%. 5 yes percent with 57 votes. I want to know what those people who said yes are doing. What are you smoking? And where did
Very
you get it?
optimistic, I think.
Yeah, seriously.
And this comes from Institute for Creation Research.
Oh yes, the ones who don't even believe in natural selection. Those guys.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Ooh, top-notch research level, guys.
And I know people like to say, hey, my articles are biased, but the guy who wrote this article has a PhD. They got super smart.
Andrew Wakefield also has a PhD. I don't care. Having a PhD means you should know better. That's what that actually means. Right? Like, when people are like, oh, this guy has a PhD, I'm like, okay, but he's obviously wrong about very obvious, very easy to figure out stuff. So, all you're doing by telling me what a big brain he is telling me how dishonest he is. Because
Yeah, basically.
the smarter you are when you say this nonsense, the less charity I have for you. That's all that happens. That's why it was
Yeah, the more
hilarious to me.
likely it is that you're lying.
Exactly.
Like, those are inversely proportional.
That's why it was hilarious when Sal was trying to tell me what a big brain Dr. John Sanford has. I'm just like, okay.
Great, so he's a liar. Nice, thanks.
It's like,
Yeah.
if you really want to push hard on, he's a liar. I mean, I'll let you. Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine for $5 says this style of apologetics is purely theater put on for the sake of reassuring believers. Actually engaging with criticism is not on the agenda. No, I mean, obviously. Although this guy is in that club, right? That's not necessarily all apologists. I do know apologists who do attempt to, engage with actual criticisms. Now, I think sometimes they do a better job than other times. I think many times they do a pretty poor job, but that's neither here nor there. At least they're trying. So, yeah. All right, here we go.
People, so if you have an issue, talk to them. This is what it says. I just thought there's a
Yeah, if you have a problem, talk to ICR. I'll just call up Randy Galuzzo.
Yeah.
interesting. Conventional geologists are still baffled by the Cambrian explosion.
Nope, they're not.
It's the Cambrian explosion.
The thing is, if it were actually true that geologists were baffled by the Cambrian explosion, what's your citation for that? Because it's just not true, right? You're not. If you go look through recent literature, you're not going to find a whole bunch of people like, and this solves the mystery of the Cambrian explosion, or this suggests more research into how we might solve the mystery of the Cambrian explosion. There's no mystery, right? Now, granted, there are still open questions, right? Like exactly what the relationship is between this particular group of strange animals, or exactly how early in the Cambrian or how late in the Cambrian certain evolutionary events happen, things like that, right? Like, we obviously don't have every single thing. But there's no like, oh my goodness, the Cambrian explosion, now that sure is troublesome. I wonder how that is possibly a thing that happened. No. The question now is more, which of the myriad options for things that are reasonable that could explain various things in the Cambrian are true? Rather than, we have no idea what could possibly explain this. We're at the point where now we have an abundance of explanations potentially that are all potentially, plausible. For basically everything in there. Now, the South Geek 5, the Final Frontier, for £5 says, can't watch live because I'm at a pub. I'm just here to remind everyone to hit like and share. Gonna see tomorrow if we avoided the Bilbo fellow. It's iffy.
Nethar 6 Hair says at Dapper and Vigilante, AIG ist ein Beutelwolle Schwengel. And then AIG's Bagadex emoji.
Nice. Very nice. All right, here we go.
I apologize to any Germans if I mingled your language.
I mean, it's not like I would do a whole lot better. Look, there's...
I guess this means I just need to watch more Daniel Burrell movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean...
His Karl Lagerfeld biopic thing is coming out somewhat soon. So.
Do you really need an excuse to watch more Burrell movies?
Daniel Burrell?
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
I don't.
Exactly.
Some try to deny that it was sudden, but most admit that Cambrian rocks...
I mean, it was sudden in terms of geological terms, but it was like 50 million years in terms of actual, if you had to sit there, wait for it time. Which, anything that takes 50 million years, I don't consider to be terribly sudden, right? Even me, who's 150 million years plus, right? That's a third of my whole life. That's a lot.
Yeah. That is a lot.
record the sudden appearance of fossils from nearly every animal group. Again, there's no transition.
Except that we actually don't.
Yeah, I mean...
So, like,
I like what LaserFan17 in the chat says. 540 million years ago, nothing exploded and boom, every animal appeared. That's how creationists imagine it.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they hear explosion and it conjures up this idea that, like, evolution exploded and out flew trilobites and stuff. Because that's the only thing they can probably name from the Cambrian is trilobites.
An explosion of Anomalocaris would be terrifying.
Yes, it would. So yeah, here's one of the things, right? First, when they say animal groups, what they usually mean are phyla, right? But the phyla don't actually appear all at once at the beginning of the Cambrian, right? They appear at different points. So, for instance, actual crown arthropods appear a bit over 10 million years into it, but actual, like, crown chordates don't seem to appear until towards the end of the Cambrian. And in the meantime, there's all sorts of other groups that are filling in. Like, we have our first confirmed mollusks at one point, but they weren't there at the very beginning. And further, when you go back in time, right? If you take a look at our classification system, the farther back in time you go, the farther up the scale of Linnaean classification essentially you're going, right? So, if you look at, say, mammals, about 20-ish million years ago, the first members of the modern, like, mammal families were really starting to come about, right? If you push it back to, like, 40 million years ago, you're starting to separate into, like, modern orders. If you go back 70 million years ago, you're starting to separate some of, like, the subclasses or superorders, right? You're getting, like, Laurizatheria and, like, Barungulata splitting from Euarchontigliers back in the time of the dinosaurs. Now, if you were to show up there in person and look around, yeah, it would just be a bunch of different species running around. That's what it would look like. But that's because the farther back you go, the more these divisions seem like they're really deep divisions between vastly different things. But if you looked at the two species, one of which was the common ancestor of all modern, like, equids, horses and whatnot, and the one that was the common ancestor of all modern rhinos and tapirs, they would look almost exactly the same. You couldn't tell them apart. They would just be two species of that same kind of walking on its toes weirdo thing. DM, pour out one vegan nog for my Hobie's wing for $5 says, points to earliest known fossil and asks where the predecessor is. Yeah, there is that too, right? Something had to be the first
Ernie
fossil.
Ernie Matthews says French would be more fun with glottal stops for unpronounced letters. So I had to reply that I think they need to learn Ultra French.
Ooh, yes, Ultra French is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. Oh god, I just got pain in my body from remembering Ultra French.
If you don't know what Ultra French is, after this is done, look it up on YouTube. Just type in Ultra French, see what shows up. Yep. So yeah, when we get back to the Cambrian, right, we're at the point where phyla are diverging. But if you looked at the first, like, organism that's going into arthropoda, and then the next organism over that's almost an arthropod but isn't, you wouldn't see much difference, right? So all they're saying is we're so far back in time that the level of divergence is at what we now recognize as the phylum level. Okay, well, that had to happen at some point. If evolution is true, you're just at that point saying, oh my goodness, all of these phylum appeared during this period. Yeah, that's when the phyla appeared. What else do you want from me? Rosina Keller for $1.99 says, squids are shellfish, sensual shellfish, who also don't have shells, but they do have a comb. Don't eat the comb.
Undeloid is asking why I'm so much louder. I do have the microphone very close to my mouth because we were having issues with me being too quiet, but
I can try to even it out. Is that any better? Let me know if it's better.
Phases, everything appears to be fully formed. To me, this is the nail in the coffin for evolution.
Yeah, except there's not fully formed doesn't mean anything, dude. You said it so many times, and it doesn't mean anything, right? It's like, can you believe how embiggened they all are in the Cambrian? Yeah, because it's not a real word. It doesn't mean anything in this context. I mean, obviously, fully formed is a real phrase. Like, it doesn't mean anything in this context. Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine for $2 says, so this is basically the Dr. Banjo argument again. Yeah, to a large extent. But also, I am noticing that we have 40 likes, but 83 concurrent viewers, which unfortunately means we did not avoid it, and I liked less than half of you, half as well as you deserve, so make sure you hit like, so you don't get Bilbo'd. It's not that hard, you just hit that like button, and then I don't have to quote Bilbo.
Double punk.
So, here we go.
And the glaring
Free
lack
Pibble Punks
of
thingy.
I did.
You did?
So
Was
this
I
is
not
basically
paying
the Dr.
attention?
Banjo argument again. Yeah, you weren't paying attention.
Apparently, I just
Spaced
memory
right
hold
out.
like an entire minute of my life. Wow, great.
That's okay.
That's fine.
You take an edible for the show?
No.
Okay. You say
Nope.
so. If you say so.
I do.
ancestors and rocks below the Cambrian increases the mystery. And in case you're wondering what this fossil is, that's a trilobite.
I wasn't. But thank you.
It's like one of the smallest organisms.
What? Trilobites are one of the smallest organisms. Since when? Has this guy not heard of bacteria?
I almost choked on my coffee.
What would even make him think that? Oh my god.
Oh.
Wow.
Look, I'm sorry. I need to put in a key. That was freaking stupid.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's a mega stupid key right there.
That's found in
Wow.
the fossil record. But you can read about it.
No, you can't. Literally nothing. Not even the creationists will tell you that trilobites are among the smallest organisms in the fossil record. Jeez. Has this guy ever heard of chalk? Which is basically just full of the single-celled skeletons of dead creatures, all of which are smaller than the smallest trilobite. Oh my god.
A new study of the... I'm not going to begin to read either a lot of these big words here.
Shengjiang? Is Shengjiang really that hard, dude? In Yunnan province, China? Jeez.
I mean, I would struggle. I'm not
Yes.
familiar with, like, the Latinization of Chinese, so I struggle.
Well, I mean, there are like 3 of them, so there is that.
Hmm.
But like, you could just look it up. Just toss it into Google before you start recording. And like, sure, I'm not going to ask that like an English speaker get like the tones right. I'm not going to get the tones right. But like, it's not that hard.
But we're going to get through this. A new study in China tries to solve the mystery. The authors claim that all the animals died in an unstable river delta environment.
Okay, well, that's pretty cool. Let's keep that in mind.
But the internal inconsistencies in their interpretation are better explained by the actions of the global flood.
Of course they are.
Okay.
Yeah, look, if there's one thing that, flood deposits look like, it's river delta deposits. You know, they look almost exactly the same, right? You know, because river deltas tend to have rather smooth grain sizes with relatively consistent grain sizes that tend to fall out rather abruptly, which is why you can get some pretty large size grains there. They're smooth because of the long transportation area. That tends to be relatively low energy. You might get some like tidal crossbedding at the sort of low elevation end, sort of towards the ocean, because you don't really get any towards the other end. Yeah, that's exactly what you expect from a flood that deposits, things like graded bedding and unsmooth sediment because it hasn't actually taken very long to get there. Yeah, exactly the same. Oh wait, no, they're actually easily distinguishable by anyone who even knows the first thing about stratigraphy. Oops. Also, Ben Thick Tunicate B2022 for £5 says, the contents of my baby's nappy has a better understanding of the fossil record than this dude. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not going to blatantly lie to you about the fossil record, so yeah. Astro Frog Disarmament Review for $4.99 says, speaking of small creatures, wonder if Escherichia coli and Salmonella enterica are in the same created kind. Yeah, I've heard Creationists say that bacteria is a created kind. And it's like, dude, that's
all of it, huh?
That's more diversity than in all animals put together by a lot. That's all one kind, huh? And it's clearly just like you're biased towards things that are more and more like humans. That's why you'll get. I've seen some creationists say that each each genus of ape, right? So like Pan, gorilla, and pongo, and then they usually don't even think about hylobatids, but whatever, are their own created kind. There's a gorilla kind, there's a chimpanzee kind, and there's an orangutan kind. And the chimpanzee kind includes the chimpanzee and the bonobo, and the gorilla kind includes, the lowland and the eastern gorilla, all of that. And pongo includes all like 3 or 4 species of orangutan, no matter how many there are now. It changes every once in a while. And yeah, those are the 3 created kinds of great apes. It's like, really? Because everyone else is saying that that's all one kind. It's like, I don't care, it's three kinds. And then you get to like, oh, like sheep and goats are one kind, but cows are another. But like all of antelopes are a single kind. It's like, you're just more familiar with sheep and goats and cows, aren't you?
Ridiculous.
Like, okay. And yeah, it just changes. And then the farther away you get from humans, the bigger the groups get. Like at the Ark encounter, at least when Erica went and gave us her compilation of their Ark kinds, all of frogs was just one kind. Just the whole thing. Every single frog came off of apparently the Ark with two frog from a frog mommy and a frog baby. Or frog daddy, I guess, whatever.
I like the Ungeloid is saying, like, hey, most sea life doesn't do well in brackish water. Or water that's turned into steam.
Yeah, it's true. You know, you can tell because one of the ways that you cook sea life is by steaming it.
Yes.
You ever steam a
Al
lobster?
Trucker says, God created Adam and Eve with poop in them and gut flora intact. That's another question I have.
Adam must
in
have been
addition
so
to, like,
confused
mosquitoes.
Yeah. Adam must have been so confused when he took that first dump made of food he never ate. Rosina Keller 499 says, Hovind says each ape is a created kind and all birds are one kind. That's odd because when I debated him, he did not agree that all birds were in one kind. But then again, he just thinks that kinds are whatever that is convenient for him at that moment for rhetorical purposes. He has no actual consistent criteria. All right, we're getting less done with this than normal. I've just noticed that. Because the reason is we're going to get through all of this video.
I'm not even trying.
24-minute video, and we're not even coming close. Goop23, who's been a member for 18 months, is at the tetrapod level, says, are you saying intuition isn't good science? Yeah, generally not. I mean, it's a fine place to start your investigation, but, like, don't expect it to end there.
Over 250 species have been identified in the Xizang biota, including worms, anthropods.
Xizang. Dude, there's an NG in there. At least try, right? Like, read the letters that are there. Don't just skip a bunch of them.
No, they won't.
Okay.
Pods and vertebrates, the highest number.
Vertebrates.
Vertebrates?
Yeah.
Okay.
Vertebrates. And also notice that what it actually says is, over 250 species have been identified in the Xinjiang biota, including worms, arthropods, and vertebrates. But in parentheses, it actually says chordates. You know why?
Oh.
Because there are no vertebrates in the Xinjiang biota.
Yeah.
There are non-vertebrate chordates, like sea pens. Yeah, that's why it says that. Because, hey, guess what? Vertebrates have evolved.
Teriyaki, sorry, says all fruit in the Garden of Eden were like those probiotic gummies.
Just chock full of bacteria. But the good kind.
Full of it.
Of any Cambrian unit. These animals appear suddenly and fully formed in the formation, which contains
the Yuan Shan formation?
17. Laserfan 17 says vertebrates are my favorite chordates.
Oh, man.
The special fossil assemblage. The Cambrian explosion is now universally accepted as a genuine, rapid evolutionary event.
Yeah, it is, right? Like, no one's going to say that the Cambrian explosion isn't relatively rapid compared to other events in evolution. But it's not instantaneous. It's not, like, inexplicably fast. Morphological change moves at different rates throughout time in response to things like different morphological pressures. One of the most common ideas about the Cambrian explosion, if we're going to call it that, is that it was an adaptive radiation that happened as a result of a few different things, one of which is new niches opening up because of a more complex food web, but also just a response to predators and the formation of some of the first evolutionary arm races, right? Where predators are evolving to become better and better at acquiring prey, and prey at the same time are evolving to be better and better at avoiding predators. And you get this kind of arms race all the time in evolution, right? Like, the American cheetah did not evolve from another fast cheetah, right? It's actually more closely related to the mountain lion or puma or whatever you want to call that particular animal, because there's like a million different common names for that animal. But it evolved in a certain amount of competition with the American pronghorn, and so the pronghorn become absurdly fast and high jumping in order to get away from the American cheetah, which in turn converges onto an anatomy very similar to the African cheetah, so that it can become absurdly fast to catch these absurdly fast animals. And now, without the American cheetah, you have a situation where, like, pronghorns are weirdly fast and can jump weirdly high distances for, reasons. They just kind of can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And at the beginning of this arms race, right, you would have had a fairly normal speed cat and a fairly normal size, not quite a giraffe. Because, pronghorns are giraffoids, not quite in giraffidae.
This reminds me of something that sounds a little bit like selection pressure, but, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, no, that's absolutely what it is. It is indeed a selection pressure. And when you have directional selection or disruptive selection, that's when you get morphological change, right? And predators usually put directional selection on species, although sometimes it can be, what did I just say? Disruptive selection, right? So that there's more than one avenue in which you can evolve that is more effective, which can then end up with sympatric speciation. So yeah, it's almost like that's what's going on, and it's a perfectly ordinary thing. It's just that it's the first one that really happens. As to Frog Disarmament Review for $9.99 says, seeing this guy say Chinese reminded me of this one website that just copied a site and that had a hiragana onto one that didn't. So they wrote yanderu, yande, which is actually, okay, there's too many tone markers. I hate the tone markers, and I'm not going to get them right. Yende. Yeah, no, that's horrible. It's like a whole extra syllable. Why would they do that? No. Also, my Japanese is not very good, in case anyone's wondering.
But the causal factors for this event have been long debated, with hypotheses in environmental, genetic, or ecological
Once again,
triggers.
Can you read Pibblepunk? I wasn't not paying attention this time.
Oh yeah, I did miss Pibblepunk this time. Pibblepunk, half dog, half canine, for $5 says, have the word hylobatid bouncing around the noggin for a few days without knowing what it meant or where I heard it. Thanks for solving that riddle. Yeah, it's the gibbons. The gibbons are the hylobatids. Watch enough of Erica's content, and you will know the word hylobatid for sure.
Said the co-author of the University of Exeter.
Exeter? Dude, you can't get Exeter right? What? Okay, sure. Whatever, man.
Can conventional scientists explain the sudden appearance of so many types of animals in the blink of an eye?
Except that there's no particular explanation that's beyond just evolution working the way we expect.
It's like everything was just completely created because it was.
Okay, well, tell you what there, buddy. Show me where the Cambrian lobsters are. Just that. Just a lobster. The kind of animal that lives in the same kind of environments we get in the Cambrian fossils. So where are the lobsters? Heck, where are the sea cucumbers? Where are the sea urchins? Where are the sand dollars? Where are the flounders? Any of those? No? Not a single one. Weird, isn't it?
Ernie Matthews is asking you, ¿cuántas lenguas tienes?
It depends on how I count.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously that means Spanish is somewhere in there, right? So, like, I know I can understand a fair bit of Spanish. I can speak a little bit less of it. I've retained most of my high school French. I can read most Romance languages without too much trouble after, like, I just double check a few things here and there. I'll have a dictionary near me, but I don't need it all the time. Reading basically any Romance language. Speaking it, though, is another whole other matter entirely. Like, you could yammer away at me in, like, Catalan all day, and I'm not going to get a damn thing. But if you give me a Catalan text, I can probably
you would
plug
get
my way
some
through
of it.
Yeah, okay, some of it, but very little.
It's so funny. Like, this is a perfect example of language translation being very literal. Literal. God, I need more caffeine. Very, very literal. Meaning is you count tongues. How many you have?
Yeah.
Cuantas is basically how many tongues do you have?
Mm-hmm.
The plain meaning, not the literal meaning, is how many languages do you speak?
Yeah.
So,
which is how I took it.
Yeah, it's just funny because like that's one of the questions that comes up a lot in like Bible stuff is like the literal meaning, and I'm like, okay, but what's the plain meaning? Because those are different.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I was not being asked how many anatomical tongue organs I possess.
Yeah.
The answer to that would just be the one.
One.
Only got the one.
Yeah. If you have more than one tongue, I would be concerned.
Yeah. I mean, I studied Arabic in college. I took 3 semesters of that. I skipped Arabic 1 because I already had it down. I'm definitely in the top 100 Klingon speakers in the planet because it's such a small number of people overall. I don't know. I mean, I know a few words here and there of a bunch of other languages. So, yeah, like I said, it depends on how I count them, right? I don't know. I know some Latin, some Greek. I know a very little bit of Hebrew. Less Hebrew than I know Arabic. I definitely know Arabic better than Hebrew. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, it depends on how I count.
Publishing in Nature Communications, the team of scientists from several institutions in China, Canada, and United Kingdom found an uncommon mix of sedimentary deposits, water sources, and fossil types, all mixed in the same rock formation.
You mean the river delta formation? Where you should expect to have multiple different ecosystems preserved because it's a river delta that starts with, fluvial, then transitions into delta, and then ends with shallow marine water? Man, oh my goodness, how could multiple different organisms from different ecosystems have all ended up in a formation that has multiple ecosystems represented in it? Oh my god! Goodness. Nether 6 Harris says, but Dapper, have you battled the other Klingon speakers for honor? No, we actually tend not to do that very much. Here's the thing, like the Klingon speaker community is a very specific cross-section of very Star Trek nerds, but also like linguistics nerds, right? Like unless you're in the Venn diagram overlap of those very specific types of nerdery, you're probably not going to learn Klingon. So, yeah. And as you might know, those 2 particular kinds of nerds aren't well known for, like, their come at me bro attitudes. So.
They're also not known for their combat skills.
I mean, look, I've got bow staff skills, which is pretty important because girls love a guy with skills. So, you can keep that in mind. You've never seen me with a bow.
How do you have bow staff skills with such tiny arms?
I use my human suit.
Oh.
See? Problem solved. DM pour out 1 vegan nog for my homies win for $2 says, kinds are usually determined by the 5-year-old rule.
Yes.
Yeah, well, AIG, like, makes a pretense at doing something a little bit more rigorous than that, but they also include the cognitum method, which is when you just, like, kind of look at it. And then we have You Little Rascal as AIG un sacco di piccolini. Since you can't do the Italian thing, you have to do
un sacco di piccolini.
Yeah, you have to do the stereotypical intonation. I don't make the rules. Yeah. Sacco di piccolini. Yeah, I don't speak Italian. I can read most of Italian. And if people speak Italian, I can usually get, like, at least what the topic of discussion is. I won't say I can understand them, but, like, I'll know roughly what they're talking about, right? So, yeah. Yeah, okay. Alex Markle says, but you're Dapper, you're a Ceratosaurus. You could own any human in melee combat. Yeah, but, the girls, they like skills. Just being able to, bite a human in half isn't a skill. It's just a physical capacity I was born with. You gotta get the skills. That's the sexy part. That's Tunicate Official for $5 with their 5th super chat. Thank you very much. It says, je suis allé à la boulangerie et dit, je voudrais la plus grosse baguette. Et ils m'ont donné...
Donné en AIG.
Oh my goodness! I honestly, I wasn't sure where that was going, and then I just saw. Oh man, guys, it's harder for me to predict where it's going when it's in another language because I'm not ready for it.
For those of us who don't speak French.
Oh, I was in like it's a place where you can get like it's like a bakery.
Pastries.
And I said I would like a very big baguette, and they gave me an AIG. Yeah. We got Juliana Delicato for €2.49 with their first super chat saying, AIG e un sacco de rolas. Get this.
Get this.
Thank you very much. Man, now I kind of regret not having... Well, okay, I don't actually regret not having an alcoholic
If that's
beverage.
Portuguese, é saco de rolas.
I think it is.
Correct me, Juliana, if I'm wrong.
I was going to say, like, I regret not actually having the drink, but only because I would like to keep track of these. But then I realized, I don't actually want to drink any alcohol. I'm okay with my not drinking any alcohol today. Sticking by it. I had some on Friday, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need... No, I had some on Thursday. Then Friday I didn't have any, and today I don't want any either. Hopefully by Tuesday I'll want some, because those are usually drinking streams. But, yeah, you know, sometimes I just don't want any.
And I brought this up before.
Yay, I was right, it's Portuguese. Hooray!
Nice.
But the only way something fossilizes, it has to be buried rapidly in sediment.
So here's the better way to say that, right? And I understand why people don't say it because it's not very catchy and it requires explanation. But the better way to say that is that things have to be buried faster than the rate at which their hard parts decay in order to form a fossil. Now, if you want to form a fossil with soft tissue, then it needs to be buried more rapidly than the soft parts decay. But how rapidly that is varies depending on both the local environment, what kinds of hard parts we're talking about, all sorts of other things, right? So, like, why are trilobites so abundant? Even in places where they should be living with other things, but we really don't find much besides trilobites in these fossil-bearing strata. Well, a big part of it is because their shell was basically already rock, right? It was biomineralized, and it wasn't even mostly made of organic material. So when they died, or when they just shed their exoskeleton, what's left behind is actually just already rock. So it doesn't need to be buried very fast in order to be preserved. Because unless it's going to like erode away or get crushed, nothing's really eating it, right? It's the same thing with like clamshells. Nothing's going to eat a clamshell if it can avoid it. At least for the most part. There are some animals who might eat some for like some extra calcium here and there, but for the most part, it's already a rock. Same thing with like ammonite shells, right? That's why mollusk shells are so common all over the fossil record. They're already rocks. And it's also why things like, you know, having the soft tissue from an octopus preserved is so unbelievably rare. And there's only 1 or 2 places where we've ever found it. It's because, I mean, that's all soft. But on the other hand, if you fall into the right kind of environment, deposition can be very, very slow and still result in a fossil. And a lot of our Lagerstätten are like that, right? One of the more famous ones is the Solnhofen Lagerstätte, which is in Germany, and it's used or it was originally used as a quarry for stones for lithography. And the reason it was so good for lithography was because the grains were so fine that you could get highly detailed carvings into the rock, so that when you made a lithograph, which is just, you know, putting ink on the rock and then slapping it on the paper, and then that impresses an image, you could get very detailed images with the rock from Solnhofen. And it's a limestone, which accumulates at a painfully slowly rate, even at the maximum level of deposition that's ever even been theoretically calculated. So how is it able to actually preserve in like almost completely 3D fossils things like Archaeopteryx complete with feathers? Well, because there was basically no oxygen at the bottom of that. There was nothing to eat down there, except for like a few anaerobic bacteria, who even themselves weren't all that common because the rate of organic material falling into the lagoon wasn't very high, specifically because there weren't a lot of animals living there, specifically because it didn't have a lot of oxygen. So how long did it take for those fossils to get? Probably
Heather Chagas are
decades.
smarter than Roger Kuhn in the chat says diatomaceous earth. Diatoms have silicate shells.
Yep, and there's another thing that can just last for millions of years is silicate shells. That's just basically glass.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be eating glass? What's going to be decomposing that? I mean, nothing. Unless it mechanically abrades away, it's just going to stick around. So,
Can we break? I need coffee.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We can take a quick break. Let's go to the intermission, and you guys can listen to the wonderful stylings of Beethoven while we grab some fresh drinks. Okay, we're back. Now, right quick, before we get right back into this, DM pour out one vegan nog for my homie's wing says, fossils in Aeolian sandstone. Am I a joke to you? Yeah, there is that too, right?
Basically.
And yeah, they do seem to be a joke to most creationists. I don't think that I've never actually heard a creationist really address Aeolian sandstone beyond Andrew Snelling saying, "No, it's not Aeolian, it's marine." Okay.
All
Hey,
right, man.
Drew, you got any reason for that? Oh, because the cross-bedding is at an angle, according to you, that no one else has ever reported and that no one else can find? Huh. That sounds a whole lot like you're just lying there, Andy. Whoops. That's the best I've heard anyone address that. So, yeah. Now, before we get right back into it, I want to say thank you very much for everyone's generosity. You guys have been amazing. You guys came in with support for the stream I did with the Flat Earther the other day. You guys came in with the last Kent with Bent. You guys are supporting me here, and it's important because this channel is almost entirely supported directly through the support of fans. If you're someone who is interested in supporting financially, but you're not currently doing that, there's a number of great ways. There's a Patreon linked in the description. There's the channel memberships with the join button right below this video. Both of those are monthly, although on the Patreon you can get a 15% discount for going annually. They both get you early access to videos. You get access to my Discord server that's just for supporters. I mean, with the early access, it's like 5 months worth of early access stuff right now. It might be a little bit more than that. It's not quite at 6 months, I don't think, but it's getting there. You can get your name in the credits at higher tiers, starting at the $5 tier and up. You can get more benefits. And ultimately, you're helping the channel out, which is really appreciated. If a monthly or an annual pledge isn't your thing, there's also a merch store linked in the description. And as I said, both Bashanti and I have wish lists linked in the description. And I'll tell you,
Yes.
It might be a little selfish, but it's very hard to not have a good day when a package just randomly shows up with something that you had your eye on that was on your wish list for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
it's basically the automatic give this person a good day is buy any one of those things. And yeah, we're going to have a nice good day. Now, of course, if none of that's right for you, if you can't afford it, I will not ask you for money that you can't afford. If you still want to support the channel, no matter what, please like this video, share this video, watch my videos, share them. This past week, we went past the 1% mark in terms of more than, potentially a bit past 1% of the people who watched my videos shared, right? The number of shares was a bit over 1% of the number of people who watched videos last week. So thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate that because sharing is a big way the channel grows. So, but with all that out of the way, let's dive back into the Graham Pettis nonsense about the Cambrian explosion, which is his take on ICR's stump take. So we're getting just... what does someone even dumber than ICR think about ICR's already very stupid take on the Cambrian explosion? And unsurprisingly, he's not even reading this thing correctly. He's getting the things that they're saying perhaps a little bit dishonestly, but he's obviously swallowing them. Like when he said that there were vertebrates in the Shangjiang formation, which is not true. There are chordates. And chordates aren't identical to vertebrates.
Dapper's Invagination Station in All Points West. It says, oh, and what's that timer all about? I bet someone put a lot of thought and rage into that.
Yeah. Also, I was asked how Dapper's Imagination Station in All Points West says, how's your rice supply? Fine. I do not need rice at the moment. I'm not going to stop you from buying it, but I do not need it. I mean, honestly, if you wanted to get me something for my wish list, first, make sure you can afford it. But also, I have a priority listing, right? Like some things are listed as high priority. Most things are just medium. And then there's a few things that are low priority, like what even is low priority? I think the like the nitrile gloves are low priority or something. I've already got a bunch. The rice is at like lowest priority. Yeah, the 3D printer resin is at low priority because I still have almost an entire bottle. So, yep. I would say if you did want to get something from there, first go by price. What are you actually willing to spend, and then just choose something that has the highest priority with that price. There you go. Anyway, and of course, your other option is just don't buy anything for me. You definitely don't have to. I'm not ever angry because no one has bought me something. That's what I expect is for people to not buy those things. They're there just in case.
So if your dog or cat dies in the backyard, it's just not going to lay there on top and fossilize. The birds and
It's almost like no depositional environment that has resulted in fossils has ever been explained by scientists as backyard deposition. Right? Yeah. Of course, nothing's going to get fossilized in your backyard full of worms and grass and bacteria. That doesn't describe any of the places that we find fossils. Jeez.
come by, pick it up. I've got coyotes, I've got bears, I've got vultures, all kinds of things in my backyard. And so if something's going to die out there, it's going to be gone pretty quick. But even if you...
I kind of wonder where he lives, that his backyard is just full of vultures.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
Does he know what vultures eat?
I mean, yeah, like, what does that say about his backyard? Okay, hold on.
What kind of bodies you got back there, bruh?
Yeah, what's going on in your backyard there, Graham? You got something you want to tell us? Why don't you have a seat? What do you do in your backyard, Graham? Goodness.
bury it in the ground, there's different organisms that go in and eat it. So for stuff to fossilize...
It's almost like this explains why fossils are almost always found in either wind-borne sand from a desert or places where water is somewhat rapidly, like I said, depositing sediment directly onto things in a situation where the replacement of your organic material with minerals is a possibility, unlike your backyard, which is just, full of things that are going to eat all of that. Huh. Weird. It's almost like when you say, how come fossils don't form in places fossils don't form, therefore fossils can't form in places they do form unless it's a flood, is the bad argument. Yeah. As to antediluvian was Ediacarian Ryu for $1.99 says, in before someone sends you 50 pounds more of rice. Yes. Yeah, please don't buy me 50 pounds of rice. Actually, it's not an amount I think you can. I think you get 45 or 60. So I'm pretty sure they're 15-pound bags that I have on the wish list. But I don't need one. I actually got another one, I think like 2 months ago, and I haven't opened it yet. Because I've still got plenty. I'm planning to use a whole bunch of rice today to make rice for tomorrow for fried rice. And it's still not even going to come close to touching that most recent bag.
You have to have perfect conditions and stuff.
Perfect doesn't mean anything. You have to have good enough conditions.
I would say rarely, or if at all, fossilizes anymore. But you have.
Okay, there's this cool phenomenon called a subfossil. Have you ever heard of this, Vishanti?
The what now?
A subfossil.
No.
So this is a fossil that in a particular scene will generally be the more passive and restrained of the individuals. And then there's a dom fossil, which is usually going to be the one taking the initiative in the scene, although really the scene should have been... Oh, wait, no, hold on. Nope, back up. A subfossil, gotta change gears here, is in fact a fossil that has not actually become a fossil yet. It's less than 10,000 years old, and usually has undergone partial but not full permineralization. Which means that, fossils are still forming, because we have incipient fossils that we can find. In fact, Madagascar is famous for having subfossils of various species of lemurs, all over the place. Just all over the place. Subfossils of lemurs. So yeah, fossils are forming. Otherwise, we would not have currently in the process of fossilization fossils. Sorry about that mix-up earlier with the whole subfossil thing. Yeah. Sometimes I forget which show I'm on.
Starsong says that I look really tiny on the back of that axolotl, and I had to let them know it's a very large kaiju-sized axolotl.
Yes, obviously. Yeah, that guy's got to be, what, like 2 meters, 3 meters long? Something
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I do wonder how it breathes in a place where you can also breathe.
Well, if it's kaiju-sized, I suspect that's going to be only one of many issues we need to address.
Fair.
To have water and sediment, it has to be very...
It doesn't need water. Water helps, though.
Be very, very rapidly.
And yeah, Tesla using 2 to 3 meters is not a kaiju. Yeah, it needs to be way bigger than that.
Well, I thought it was relative to the normal size of the animal in question.
Ah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know all the rules.
And in my other videos you've seen, there's...
I mean, Graham, I have not seen any of your other videos all the way through, other than, like, I haven't even seen the two that I did here all the way through. I just skipped around to make sure I wasn't including anything I didn't really want to, which is why, like, I cut out his, like, beginning and end music, and, like, I think he ended one of them with, like, a big prayer that I'm like, I just don't care about this. So, yeah. Not that I would tell him to stop praying or anything. I don't care. I'm just not going to show him praying because it's not interesting to the topics I want to talk about.
Animals wash out the sea that are buried a mile deep down the ocean in sediment. And there's all types of animals, land animals, air, fish. They're all buried in the same spot.
Man, it's almost like land animals can die and fall into the water and get swept out to sea. And what do you think happens to an animal that's a quote-unquote air animal when it dies? You think it just stays up there? Is it a balloon animal? Is that what's happening? Is that what he thinks air animals are like? As to Diluvian was any current review for $4.99 says, depends. Is the Axolotl Dynamaxed? If so, then yes, it's compared to relative size. I mean, then I'll say yes. So that way it can be, 2 or 3 meters long. Still count as kaiju sized. And yeah, there you go.
Some layers show cross bedding while others show parallel layering.
You mean like a delta? A delta that earlier, before I even saw this bit, I was like, you might have some cross bedding down at the ocean level because of tidal cross bedding, whereas you might not higher up because it's coming in from a fluvial environment that doesn't involve tidal cross bedding. Oh my god, how could that possibly happen in this formation without a global flood? Jesus Christ, man.
Fade to Grey Boiled Terry Arky is asking how big is a normal sized Godzilla, but I think they meant kaiju. But I will love an answer for you about Godzilla because it depends on which era.
Well, obviously, I'm going to go with the Heisei Godzilla vs. Ghidorah origin story, in which a Godzillasaurus, which was a dinosaur, appeared, and it was about the same size as like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So there you go. A normal sized Godzilla is about as big as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm changing the size of this inappropriately. Sorry about that.
Indicating dramatic changes in flow velocities. Other had oscillatory flow deposits suggesting water moving back and forth. Some layers suggest...
Wait, you mean like might happen where a river hits the ocean? And there's things like tides and waves? Jeez, this is just painful to listen to. How could all of these things that we might predict from the standard explanation of this formation be explained by the standard explanation of the formation? Yeah, I don't know, man. That's so mysterious. Why would there be cross-bedding in one area of a tidal deposition and not the other one that isn't so tidal because it's all one big delta? Yeah, I don't know, man. That's complete mystery.
Shallow water deposition. Other layers in the formation contain black shales rich in preserved organic debris. These are interpreted by evolutionary scientists to have formed in a deep water setting.
I love how all of this is just explained by going further down the stream into the ocean.
Yeah.
That's literally all you have to do. Is like, what happens as you start in a river and go more and more out to sea? Oh, right, exactly. And that's what we find. Which completely disconfirms the conventional explanation. Oh, and the thing is I'm not even laughing at him, right? Like, whatever ICR scientist published this, it's like, dude, what are you doing? This is really bad.
In addition, some fossils seem to have been buried in place while others were transported a considerable distance.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing, right? Transport happens, and so does in situ fossilization, and they can both happen in the same place if you have a complex environment like a river delta, right? Like, there could be a year where the river is fuller than normal, and it pushes things out more, and so you have more transportation. There could be a year where there's a flood, and a whole bunch of stuff gets pushed downstream, right? There could be a year where there's a bit of a sediment slump, and some things get transported and more catastrophically buried. Because the thing is, remember, a strata is a particular depositional environment, or a continuous series of depositional environments in transition into each other. But during the period in which the stratum is laid down, there will be transient events that happen that will leave their mark. Things like just having a bumper year for water flow, or an actual flood. And so you don't expect everything to stay consistent completely within a single stratum. That's not how strata work.
To uniformitarian scientists, these observations suggest that biota somehow form simultaneously in both shallow water and deep water.
Oh, well, first, no, nothing was forming, right? Things had evolved from previous organisms in both places. But also, yeah, I mean, organisms colonize multiple environments in parallel to each other. Like, why is that even an issue that needs an explanation, right? Like, I don't get what the problem is supposed to be with this statement. How could multiple portions of an ecosystem across a river delta into shallow and then deep water marine water have both or have all come together at the same point? I don't even know what's being asked. Plus, the fact that they appear in this particular formation doesn't mean that's when they first started, right? I don't know. Is there a discontinuity below this where there would have been animals living in an erosional environment that wouldn't be preserved specifically because it's an erosional environment? I don't know. I mean, that's perfectly great. I mean, that's the kind of thing that would happen. Like, none of this actually makes sense. If you think about how any of this would actually work in real life for more than a few seconds, realize that this ICR article isn't even presenting things that are problems. They're just stating things that you would expect to see in the fossil record and then saying, yeah, but how about that, huh? Yeah, how about that?
And under rapid flow and slow flow. They even interpret that some fossils were deposited by freshwater while others by marine water.
Yeah, in a river delta, my dude.
Oh my God.
Does no one in the creationist world know what a freaking river delta is? It's not that complicated. Water goes from a river into the ocean. So yeah, you're going to get fresh and salt water deposition. That's what deltas are. Oh my God. This is worse than I thought it would be.
And uniformitarianism, that's just a
bad.
Yeah, this is... Oh my goodness.
slow, gradual processes that things evolve. That's what evolutionists say is uniformitarian.
Okay, it's not really. Geology is past strict uniformitarianism and now accepts that there have been and will be and were catastrophic events that have left their mark on the fossil record and on Earth in terms of the geology of the Earth. That's why things like Arizona crater, or the crater in Arizona, what's it called? Impact crater or something like that? Asteroid crater? I don't remember. It's got a stupid name, but it's also named after like the guy who bought it. Doesn't matter. It's one of the few like very well preserved, very obvious impact craters on the surface of the Earth. Until, catastrophism was sort of incorporated into actualism, a lot of geologists were like, that's probably an extinct volcano. It's like, no, dude, that's not an extinct volcano. An asteroid hit the planet. Or like, the Scablands in Washington. Yeah, that's a catastrophic flood. Like, we recognize these things now. And we know what to look for in terms of catastrophic geology. We can see it. We can say, yeah, this is the result of an impact, like the impact crater at the Yucatan, right? With the Chicxulub impactor. Yeah, we're aware that that's what happened there. So it's not like scientists wouldn't know how to find a global flood if it occurred. There just isn't one. And yeah, they're not uniformitarian in the sense that they always assume everything happens at slow, steady rates, just as we're watching them happen right now. But if you want to say that their interpretation of the sediment is wrong, you're going to have to show why and not just say, well, you're just assuming uniformitarianism. Because what they're actually assuming is the same thing that all science assumes, right? That the physics of the past weren't different than the physics today. And so if the rock that you see from the past formed in the same way that we see morphologically and chemically identical rock forming today, then that's the most likely explanation for how it formed in the past. And so when you see rocks forming in deltas today, and deposition happening in deltas today, and it matches with the rocks that you're seeing from hundreds of millions of years ago, the reasonable conclusion is that that was also a river delta. And the unreasonable conclusion is that despite the fact that we know what flood deposits look like, and it's not like this, that maybe it was a flood deposit anyway. Mine Unfinished Chapter 1 for $5 says, is he the first known specimen of Homo sapiens backyardensis? Yeah, maybe he is. He's got his own new subspecies for people who just spend way too much time watching the vultures in their backyard. Or attracting vultures to their backyard. So I'm not sure that that isn't what's happening.
Only the high rate of sediment accumulation seemed to be fairly consistent throughout the deposit. It is no wonder the evolutionary scientists admitted, despite hundreds of articles describing taxa, animal types, from the Zhejiang biota and their preservation, there is no consensus interpretation on the paleo environment in which the animals lived, died, and were preserved.
I mean, except that you already reported that it was a river delta, but that's a pretty broad kind of description. So, and also, I'm not sure that that's not just ICR looking at reports of multiple environments and then thinking rather than those environments might be physically displaced from each other, instead thinking, well, they don't know what was going on, right? Because like we said, if you just move horizontally through a formation that was formed by like fluvial to delta to shallow marine to deep marine, you expect different environments to be reported in those areas. And I can just see the creationists at the Institute for Creation Research saying, see, look, they're reporting fluvial, deltaic, shallow marine, and deep marine. They don't know what this deposit was at all, even though it was actually all of them. Yeah, meteor crater. Yeah, it says fits of Google image searching equals research rate. Yeah, meteor crater. Yes, it's a dumb name. It is a really dumb name. Meteor crater. Okay, sure. I'll call this one Volcano Mountain.
And the animals died in masses. So look up this.
Did they die in masses, though? Or were there just a lot of them preserved?
This formation. It's a burial ground for fossils. It's called the Niobrara Formation. It extends.
Okay, so now we're on to a new formation. Got it.
From Texas.
Oh, yeah, and it's in Texas. Okay, so we're changing topics. Okay, now, so we're on to another topic in which there is a new formation that we're talking about that does, in fact, I'll take his word for it for now, have a mass fossilization event. Okay, cool.
All the way to the Canada, and there's land, air, and sea animals all buried together.
Niobrara. That's not what I'm familiar with. Let's see if we can find that. If I can spell it correctly. Niobrara. I mean, there's a village in Nebraska and a county in Wyoming. Formation? Okay. There we go. Formation. Also called the Niobrara Chalk. Is a geological formation in North America that was deposited between 87 and 82 million years ago during the Coniacian, Santonian, and Campanian stages of the late Cretaceous. It's composed of two structural units: Smoky Hill chalk member, Fort Hayes limestone member. Okay, chalk formed an accumulation of coccoliths. So already we're at the point where, like, no, this is absolutely not a mass grave because you can't actually form limestone and chalk that way. It's literally physically impossible, so no. There might be some mass graves in there as a result of sediment slumps, but the entire formation cannot be characterized by mass fossil die-offs. And while he's saying that it extends through, like, Texas to Canada, that's a lie. It's entirely restricted to Kansas. Yeah. So that's fun. And yeah, it's from the Western Interior Seaway, which is an oceanway that was in inland North America during the late Cretaceous, which is well known. I mean, many famous Cretaceous fossil-bearing formations bordered the interior seaway there. Like one of the most famous ones being the Hell Creek Formation that has lots of Tyrannosaurus Rex in it. Yeah, so, I mean, he's basically just lying about this. It does not stretch from Kansas to Texas, from Canada to Texas.
Some you could see actually a fossilized fish, like they were eating other organisms, and they're found in their stomach. They're even found in their mouths.
I love the just assumption from creationists that nothing ever dies while or having just eaten. Because I don't understand why they make that assumption, especially given how often people die of choking. Right? Like, you're aware of this phenomenon, right, creationists, that sometimes people choke? I will never understand the assumption that everything always dies long after having had its last meal. Like, that's not how it works. Sometimes things are dead while eating or after having just eaten, and therefore their stomach contents are relatively intact. I mean, not always, but like... Or the same thing with, like, the, can you believe that this this ichthyosaur was completely buried in sediment while it was giving birth. Like, yeah, no animal ever dies in childbirth. That's definitely not a thing that ever happens. Man, on the one hand, I suppose we could say, like, hey, isn't modern medical technology great that now people so rarely die in childbirth that people forget that it's kind of a thing that happens, and that maybe that might explain why you might have a fossil of something in the middle of childbirth? So I guess props to medical science. Because, yeah, now most people don't think of childbirth as a life-threatening thing, even though it still is, just less so.
But you have mosasaur. So if you ever seen that movie Jurassic World, there you've got mosasaurs.
Don't get your information about mosasaurs from Jurassic World. For one thing, it was way too big.
Buried with land and air animals at the same time. So
it's almost like a shallow inland sea might accumulate some flying and land creatures as they wash themselves into it. Weird.
It's just interesting. You see these animal graveyards all over the world.
But that's not the Niobrara Formation. That's the thing, though. We checked, right? It's made of extremely slow to accumulate things like limestone and the kind of limestone that happens to be chalk, because chalk is just a variety of limestone. That stuff accumulates at like a maximum rate of like 2.5 centimeters per millennium. That's under ideal conditions for the deposition of limestone. And think about what it means for it to be chalk made of coccolithophores, right? That means that entire thickness has to have been made up of living algae with essentially glass for exoskeletons. For them to all be living in the same year, for this to be explained by the flood, the entire thing would just have to be meters thick of just solid algae cells from top to bottom. How are they getting sunlight to survive? They're photosynthesizers. The whole ocean can't just be a solid mass of algae. That wouldn't work. The mosasaurs couldn't swim through that. They're like swimming through peanut butter. Well, maybe more like jam, but still. Like, how would any of this work? It doesn't make any sense if you're trying to say that this happened in a year. That's another thing that creationists never go into. Like, they never go into how chalk or limestone deposits quickly, how all those animals could have been alive in the course of just a year. When Ken Ham says, oh, there's billions of dead things buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the earth, he's got a problem, because it's actually like hundreds of trillions of organisms, far more than you could fit on the planet in the course of 1 year. Vadim Slavsky-Radchenko says, Jurassic World was peer-reviewed. Well, apparently, Jurassic Park was, because, as we all know, that's where creationists got the average dinosaur is the size of a sheep from, is from the peer-reviewed article Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton.
Yep.
And in my opinion, even if I take the Bible out of it, the only way something like that happens is it has to be buried rapidly with some type of flood.
Dude, if you take the Bible out of it, you have literally nothing to go on, because clearly you've never studied anything like sedimentology. Right? Like, I consider myself to be mostly dumb about geology, right? Like, I don't consider myself to be particularly knowledgeable about that stuff. But it doesn't take me very long to realize why this could not possibly be a flood deposit. And it's pretty obvious.
So again, that's just my opinion. I'm just trying to present just another...
I'm just asking questions here.
Another side here. I'm just curious what people who believe in evolution and that subject, what their thoughts are. Comment below.
Remember when you said, Graham, that you were going to tell us both sides? It's not even trying. Jeez.
I mean, did we really expect him to?
I expected him to at least strawman, rather than just not even pretend.
I'm not trying to be argumentative. I know I get a lot of hate mail on these videos that talk about this.
Okay, first, Graham Pettis, I mean, I tagged him in here, so it's pretty easy to go find him. Do not send him hate mail. However, if you want to politely ask him to explain the things that he's saying that don't make sense, or point him towards sources that could actually answer his questions, then feel free. But absolutely do not go and harass this guy. Don't leave him hate mail.
I love how a lot of the younger creationist crowd thinks that it's not okay to criticize all of their arguments because they said blatantly false things nicely.
Yeah, as if that... It's sort of like reverse tone policing, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, I don't deserve criticism. Look how polite I've been. No, you still do. Now, I'll grant you, I prefer to give the same energy I receive, right? Which is why, I was pretty nice to that Michael guy, the Flat Earther, whereas I was kind of a dick to Mr. Batman when we did our debate, right? So, like, there's a sense of, like, matching that tone that I think is perfectly appropriate. But, yeah, no, just because you're presenting your ideas nicely and politely is not a good reason for you to not receive criticism. Especially when it's so dumb. So dumb. May I send hate mail to his t-shirt? I mean, I would prefer that you not send any hate mail at all to anyone or anything. I also can't control you. I would be disappointed if anyone did. But yeah, feel free to criticize the t-shirt. Just, don't use slurs or be rude or anything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Tesla Ranger saying criticisms equal hate mail. That's basically the way that they view a lot of it.
Okay. That's almost certainly happening, right? Is that he's getting criticism and he's calling it hate mail. But I also would not be surprised if he's getting legitimately disgusting messages.
Oh, yeah.
Because
those are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, there are a whole lot of very gross people in the sort of online atheist community. It's far from all of them, right? And there are a lot of great people who are doing atheist activism online who are not horrible, gross people. But there is also that contingency, right? And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually getting legitimate harassment from those people. Because I see them harass people all the time. It's not that uncommon. So, nor is the reverse uncommon, right? A lot of people online who aren't religious or who just aren't Christian or whatever get a lot of disgusting stuff sent to them by, like, Christians or Muslims and things like that. It happens. It's not okay either way.
It's fine. It is what it is. But what's your thought? Let's have a cordial conversation below. What are your thoughts on how this happened?
And again, it's just like, oh, as long as you're nice and polite. Like, do you realize that that's not the metric you should be using?
I mean, I don't think it's appropriate to use, like...
I am not telling people to be mean.
Yeah, like, I don't think it's appropriate.
I'm just saying, like, hey, you can't just have people soft shoe this and coddle you and just... when you increasingly dig your feet in and you have very poor, like, epistemology, you have very poor methodology, all of those things. And you're like, you can't get mad, you can't get upset, I want you to be nice and polite. Like, dude.
Look, there's nothing wrong with being blunt.
This is frustrating.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being blunt. Being blunt is not the same thing as hate mail or being rude. Yeah. So if you do decide to go answer his questions, feel free to be blunt. But, maybe keep, like, slurs and stuff out of it. Because I will say, I don't want to represent... I think I'm maybe the second person to cover this guy that I've noticed. And I keep track of a lot of the people who cover young Earth creationism. So if he starts getting a whole bunch of, like, slur-laden stuff, and I recognize some of the names, I will be disappointed in you guys. So, and I don't expect you to do it. So, like, yeah. Because you know what? My audience is great. So I don't expect them to.
Hundreds of specimens, Unizune, a leaf-looking chordate, are preserved on individual bed surfaces. It is hard to believe that these animals were able to cope with such a stressful environment setting.
Well, I mean, they died, so maybe they weren't. Just, there you go. Also, we're back to the original article, so we're back to China. We're no longer talking about the formation that he was talking about earlier in Kansas.
Said co-author Gabriella, a paleontologist in the university.
Gabriella Haynes?
No, it's Mangano. But he just didn't want to say that. And Gabriella isn't even her first name. It's M. Gabriella Mangano.
Oh.
Yeah. But of course, this guy apparently is just unwilling to even attempt to get names right. So he's just skipping them. Which I personally think is worse than getting them wrong, but whatever.
However, their fossils show that they didn't cope. They were buried alive in mass graves.
So then why wonder why they did? Like, sometimes an environment can be established. Organisms can colonize that environment. And then something changes in the environment that stresses the organisms, and then there's a die-off. Like, we see that all the time. Why can't that just be what's preserved? Why is that? What's mysterious about that? Right?
Reasons.
Yeah, okay.
Although uniformitarian scientists claim these contradictory observations can be explained by a mixed river and wave-influenced delta,
Which, of course, they can. Because that's the kind of thing that gives you multiple depositional environments as you move horizontally through the stratum. But okay.
it is still unsatisfactory.
Yeah, 2 ICR, which is never going to be satisfied by anything other than flood. It's a flood. Yep.
Many unusual depositional indicators present to lump it into a single environment. Furthermore,
Yeah, no one is in... Oh my god. A river delta isn't one environment. That's part of the whole thing about it. It's specifically a transition point where you go from fluvial to marine. That's the entire point of a delta. How does no one know what a delta is? I really want to know.
I mean, you're expecting them to know, like, the most basic things about science or geology?
Yeah, apparently that's a bridge too far.
They're younger creationists. Their entire position precludes them knowing what these are.
Okay, good point. Yeah, it's frustrating, but yeah, you're right. If they knew the first thing about deltas and actually applied that to this, then they would realize how stupid that sounds. Yeah, Anonymous Pie says, like, it's like saying New York, a single neighborhood. Yeah.
Yep.
If I say, yeah, this is from New York, and it's like, well, I mean, I don't know. I live in Queens, and that doesn't look like anything I'm familiar with. I'm like, well, it's from the Bronx. No, that's not how that works. Everything is Queens. Okay, cool. Got it.
it contains too many perfectly preserved fossils. So that's the
What's the right number? And plus, I don't think they're perfectly preserved, because I saw that trilobite, and it wasn't perfectly preserved. So, okay.
thing. You have to have literally perfect conditions for something to fossilize.
Again, that's going to depend on what the thing is. Like I said, trilobites and mollusks are much easier to preserve than soft-bodied non-vertebrate chordates. So, which is one of the reasons why we have this thing called taphonomic bias, right? Taphonomic bias says that some organisms in the environment are more easily preserved in this depositional environment than others. And so we tend to see them overrepresented in the fossil record. And one of the most common taphonomic biases is for hard mineralized parts over soft non-mineralized parts. That's why bones are more common than skin in the fossil record. It's why trilobites are more common than, say, non-biomineralized exoskeletons on arthropods, like what you actually find on most modern crustaceans, which are only weakly, if at all, biomineralized, being mostly composed of the protein chitin. Right? There's a reason that there's differences. But no, taphonomy has no biases. Why even worry about taphonomy? Which actually, that's an interesting thing. I've never seen a young Earth creationist exercise in taphonomy. Maybe I just haven't looked hard enough. But as far as I know, there just isn't one, right? Where a creationist is like, let's look at the details of how this fossilization occurred. Philipunk, half dog, half canine for $5 says, the White Cliffs of Dover must be one heck of an algae bloom. Jeez, right? Oh man, just like kilometers deep algae. Solid mass. So gross.
Stuff just doesn't fossilize. You have to have the perfect conditions for that to happen.
The more you say perfect, the less I am convinced that you have any idea what you're talking about, dude.
Such wide variety to be a simple river delta. It needs bigger floods than a single river can provide.
I mean, you know, a river over the course of millions of years, or even tens of thousands of years, can happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, under what time span?
Right, yeah. Like, more than you could explain over the course of a year? Yeah, sure. But your average river is going to flood, you know, every few decades. And if your depositional environment is lasting for a few thousand years, that's a lot of flooding.
Because I don't know if he's aware about, you know, the Mississippi River.
Which never floods ever.
As a spoiler alert, that dumps a lot of sediment into the Gulf.
Yeah, but does it ever flood? I mean, come on.
Well,
It's not like they have like flood levees or anything all over Louisiana.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Who cares?
Jeez.
Fine, don't worry about it.
And there is glaring a lack of bioturbation.
He doesn't know.
Does he even know what that is?
No, he doesn't. He's going to read it, but until he read it, he didn't know what bioturbation was.
burning of the sediments by burrowers, as would be expected in riverbanks and deltas.
See, here's the problem, though. The fact that there is bioturbation means it's not a flood sediment. Flood sediments do not contain bioturbation except at the top levels, right? Which means after the flood has settled out, then bioturbation can occur. Which means if you have any bioturbation in a formation at all, other than at the very top of it, it's not the result of a single flood. It physically can't be. And bioturbation is at different levels throughout the fossil record, but it's more or less ubiquitous. Which means that basically all of the fossil-bearing strata in the world, almost all of them are precluded from being flood layers simply by the fact that bioturbation exists in them. Yeah. I remember it was Is Genesis History? And they're interviewing Arthur Chadwick, who's a professor at Loma Linda University, which is a young Earth creationist school run by Seventh-day Adventists. Dia, more degrees than Ken Hovenwing. Says glaring lack of. Yeah. There's like, oh no, not enough bioturbation. Yeah, there's some though. Even if there's a glaring relative lack, there's still too much for you. But yeah, anyway, he's talking about he's working in the Lance Formation, which is a Jurassic formation that's found a lot in like the western parts of the United States. And the guy who's interviewing him is like, oh yeah, so bioturbation, that's the kind of thing that we don't really expect to see much of. And he's like, yeah, it's actually pretty rare in the Lance Formation, which isn't surprising. It's a desert formation. You don't get a whole lot of worms burrowing through the desert, unless you're in Mongolia and it's a death worm. And it's like, oh yeah, and he's like, yeah, well, here's some. I was like, oh, okay. So you do find bioturbation though, which means already not a flood deposit. Cool. Thanks, Arthur. Jeez, I actually called that guy on the phone once. I've spoken on the phone to Arthur Chadwick. It was kind of weird. I just wanted to get the timeline for his interview for Is Genesis History, because I had on my screen some woman's dissertation that he had signed off on that directly contradicted some of the things he said in the interview. I wanted to know if he'd signed off on that dissertation before he gave the interview or not. Unfortunately, I couldn't find out because he didn't remember when he gave the interview. So, oh well.
This is the last slide here. A better interpretation is Noah's flood. So, I should...
Yeah, it's not. Good grief.
Oh, geez. If I had alcohol, I would just take a whole shot right now.
I should have put the graph on here, but about 4,500 years ago, there was a flood that wiped out everything.
I mean, there wasn't, but okay, sure.
The Zhejiang biota resides in that
Shengjiang, it's right there. Shengjiang.
bottommost flood layers in this region of China, part of the, and you guys can read that.
Sock megasequence. So here's a fun thing. Megasequence is one of those terms that only creationists use, just like polystrate fossils, right? And it's put there because it sounds like a thing that's in geology, and they talk about doing work on these megasequences with their geology gurus or whatever. I was going to say geologists, but they're not actually geologists. They're just kind of like geology gurus who just kind of sit there and dispense alleged geology wisdom, but it's actually just nonsense. And so you think that this is a real thing, right? But it kind of loosely maps onto the conventional idea of cratonic sequences, but even then it doesn't really. And basically megasequences are something that creationists made up to exaggerate the size of depositional environments by lumping a bunch of different depositional environments into sort of like a theme that occurred over a large area of time in the past, and then say that could only be explained by the flood, because then they exaggerate the degree to which there's continuity between these different groups of rocks. And because they are always talking about megasequences, which is not a term anyone else uses, when you search megasequence, the only stuff you find giving explanations for what they're talking about are other creation sources. And the reason that real geologists is really what I should say, don't address this, because one, most of them aren't even aware that the idea of a megasequence is even a thing, because it doesn't actually come up in real geology. And so they largely are unopposed, and the only geologists who really talk about it are the few that bother to, as like a hobby, debunk creationists. Because remember, creationists get about as much pushback in the literature as flat earthers do. Which is to say very little, because there's not much point. No one takes them seriously in the first place, and most people are kind of surprised when they learn that they even exist. And I guess, I mean, by that, I mean, like, most professionals working in these fields. Vandalia 1998 for $5 says, you should get a bleeper for your live streams so you can tell us how you really feel without getting demonetized, like you have on your edited videos. There would just be like a 2-hour long blurted out stream from me. Yeah. I could do that. I'm not sure exactly how to implement it in a way that allows me to be organic with it. Because when I do it in the edited videos, I get very tight control over exactly when I bleep and when I don't and whatnot. Whereas live is a little harder. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a good idea. I just don't know how to implement it in a way that wouldn't make its use as organic as I would like it to be.
Globally, as a flood began, tsunamis from initial plate motion would have sent massive waves crashing across the shallow seas.
Hey, that's called tsunamite. That's a thing we can identify. For $5, Goop23 says, it's almost like a unique lexicon as a common thought-stopping technique in cults. Yeah, it is almost like that, isn't it?
Keeping up animals in sediment, their ebb and flow would have deposited sediments that exhibit oscillatory flow and mix faster and slower velocities as the waves waned and returned.
Yeah, except then it also would have been high energy deposition, which we can tell. And like I said, tsunamite has particular characteristics. It has a particular kind of bedding. It has a particular kind of fossilization that can occur, right? Like it tends to flatten things more than many other kinds of fossilization. There tends to be a lot of grading going on in tsunamite depositions, which is not the case in the Xinjiang formation. Like, we can tell when things are tsunamite. Now, it's hard to sometimes determine whether it's tsunamite or some other kind of turbidite, but that's the thing. The Xinjiang formation isn't turbidite at all, so it can't be tsunamite.
If near the pre-flood coastline, these waves would likely have mixed freshwater biomes with deeper marine water biomes and buried many animals alive.
That wouldn't explain the characteristic black shale deep water formations with the higher shallow marine formations made of limestone. You don't get separate depositional environments like that from a single tsunami mixing everything up. That would then cause a mix of sediments, and you couldn't get either shale or limestone to settle out, except at the very top. But the entire formation is made of that, and then above it there are other formations, which are made of even larger grain sediments, which means none of this is physically possible. Even in isolation, if all you're worried about is the deposition of just the Xinjiang biota, formation, you can't actually explain it with a flood, but you can even less explain it if you think that the entire column above and below it is also from the same flood. It fundamentally breaks just logic.
Time would have been available for intense bioturbation before the next wave and the next layer were deposited.
Yeah, that's why. But the thing is, you don't need to explain just intense bioturbation away, or the lack of intense bioturbation away. There is bioturbation. You need to explain that too. Because again, floods and tsunamis can only have bioturbation near the top, but that's not what we have.
The flood truly gives the best explanation for the data.
I mean, as long as you ignore all the logical and physical impossibilities involved in that explanation, yeah.
Evolutionary scientists automatically dismiss any evidence for the global flood.
No, there just isn't any. That's the thing, right? It's like saying evolutionary scientists dismiss all of the evidence for the invisible pink unicorns that bury things underground to turn them into fossils. No, there's just never been any presented. Once you find some,
or if you hear construction noise in the background because the entire apartment complex is installing like new fixtures and stuff, and it's loud, and I dislike it.
Oh, I hadn't, but thank you. We're going to get to the end of this section, and apparently we're going to have a sequel, because I thought we would get through this a lot faster. I did not realize just how dumb it was going to be.
And I do agree that the majority do disregard the evidence, but I actually...
Dude, you can't even assess the evidence at the most basic level in order to say that that evidence is being dismissed. Come on, man. It's like someone walking into, like, the Vatican archives and pulling out some Latin papal bull and saying, see, I think you guys are ignoring the implications of this for the practice and theology of the Catholic Church. And someone's like, hey, can you read Latin? It's like, no, not a single word. Okay, cool. We're going to ignore your opinion now because you don't know what that even says.
I am starting to read some newer articles circulating, and they're starting to admit have all these fossils, you have to have water involved.
Yeah, that is the most common way fossils form, is in aqueous deposition in environments. That's never been a surprise. But good luck explaining the Aeolian sandstone deposition and fossils.
Very rapidly in sediment. So they're actually starting to catch up. Science is always trying to catch up to the Bible. That's the way it's always been.
Okay, hold on. I have to have alcohol somewhere around here. Hold on. I don't know. Yodel for a second. I'm going to go pour myself a shot of frickin' vermouth, because something needs to go fix that. Yeah, no, it's going to be terrible.
I don't think I can yodel as long as it takes. Is this a case for the ultra stupid? Because we might need to put in the keys for that, to be honest. What does the chat think? I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to put in my key for the ultra stupid. Remember, it takes 3 keys to launch. So
I have a shot glass. It's about half full of vermouth, because holy crap is straight vermouth so gross. Oh, yeah, when I say I don't have alcohol in the house, it's technically a lie. I'm just not normally willing to do this, but here we go. Oh, God. Oh, okay. Oh.
But
There's an aftertaste, too. Okay. It was still dumb enough that it deserved something. Okay, here we go. I want to get through this one, but we're only 14 minutes through.
It is not even considered. Instead, they resort to convoluted interpretations.
Oh, DM Wing says that they legitimately don't remember what the guy said because yodeling.
Sorry about that.
However, the Genesis flood continues to be the most convincing explanation for the Cambrian explosion and the Shishang biota. I don't know if that's how you say it.
It's not.
But that's it. That's the whole article. I just thought it was super interesting. Maybe this was a little dry, but I just don't think stuff like this.
Well, I mean, it started out dry, but then I had a shot, so, you know.
This is talked about enough.
All right. There it is. We finished the damn thing. Oh, man. Remember that time I was like, I think we can get through the whole 24-minute video.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
I didn't think it was going to be this dumb. Oh my goodness. All right, Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine for $5 says, obviously these Cambrian species just lived at lower elevations. That's why they're in deeper layer. Yeah, plus they couldn't run away from the flood like, you know, all the clams could, somehow. Oh. Thank you, Pillowpunk. All right, so that's basically it for today. Shanti, do you have anything that you want to tell people about that's coming up?
My job hunt continues, and that will probably impact some of the things I do, but I don't want to go into more detail. I will just either produce something or I won't.
Okay.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Fair enough. Let's take a look at what's coming up on the channel. We've got on Tuesday, Matt with Maddie should be happening, so that is going to be Tuesday the 16th. That should be at 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Then on Thursday, we have, let me double check, Our Young Universe, Part 1 of 2, with Jake Hebert, who's a young Earth creationist from, I think, the Institute for Creation Research, which is where we just got that article from. Also, DM more degrees than Ken Hovenwing for $3 sends a bye-bye super sticker.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And I think a week from today,
looks like a sheep.
It does look like a sheep. I think a week from today, we're probably just going to do the sequel to this, where we do this part, right?
Okay.
Now that I know how dumb it is, goodness, I'll be prepared. I'll probably have to bring in some alcohol for how dumb this is. Because, this was extra painful. And, no, drinking a shot of vermouth didn't really help.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was really gross. Like, if there's palatable adult beverages in the house, I'll usually, like, slowly go through them. That vermouth is just going to stay there until I make more martinis. There's not a chance it's ever just going to get used randomly, unless I am making martinis specifically. So, yeah. With that being said, thank you very much, everybody. Make sure you hit like, share this video with people you think might like it, or just, to like your timeline or your feed or whatever you call it on whatever social media. And if you are interested, we will be doing...
Look who it is. Kip Davis in the last, minute of the stream. Traitor. Cheating on us with R and Raw.
My goodness. Not that I won't.
We're supposed to be the only thing on YouTube.
Yeah, come on, guys. Goodness. Anyway. Yeah, if you're interested, I will be over on my Discord server in just a little bit, and we will be watching episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Power Rangers Wild Force. So, yep, complete with the Red Ranger who went to prison for voluntary manslaughter. Yes, that one. Got it out of the way again. We don't have to talk about it in the Discord. All right, bye, everybody. Hope to see you all Tuesday. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Phil Ravara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Denny5252, Eleron Teller, Horseflesh, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostock Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Monkey They Them, Robert Carpenter, Sphincter of Doom, Vollus, Strawberry Vein, and Ita V. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.